Mr. Bouvet, I want to turn to the meeting that Mr. Ruane, the whistleblower, has written an extensive complaint about. The hearing started with the chairman reading a social media post by the Deputy Attorney General Blanche, who is present today but not under oath, nor is that social media post under oath. So let me ask you, since you are under oath, in the complaint it says, Bouvet stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignoring any such court order. Did you say anything of that kind in the meeting?
Senator, I have no recollection of saying anything of that kind. To the extent I
Wouldn't you recall, Mr. Bouvet, if you said or suggested during a meeting with Justice Department lawyers that maybe they should consider telling the court, fuck you? It seems to me that would be something you'd remember, unless that's the kind of thing you say frequently.
Well, I've certainly said things encouraging litigators at the department to fight hard for valid positions that we have to take in defense of our clients.
And have you frequently suggested that they say fuck you and ignore court orders? Is that also something you frequently do, such you might not remember doing it on this occasion?
No, and as I explained, I have never directed.
So did you or did you not make those?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm your host, your independent political analyst, breaking down the most controversial stories from Washington without the spin, the shouting, or the partisanship. Just facts, context, and sober analysis. Today, we're unpacking a very intense and revealing exchange from a recent congressional hearing. The focus? A high-ranking Justice Department official, Mr. Bouvet, is under serious scrutiny following whistleblower allegations that suggest potential misconduct, possible defiance of judicial orders, and even ethical breaches related to high-profile deportations and a corruption case involving the New York mayor. As always, let's separate what was said, what was implied, and what we can reasonably conclude. Let's start with the basics.
Make those comments during that meeting.
Which comments, Senator?
You really need me to repeat it? Did you suggest, as Mr. Ruane wrote, that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignore any such court order?
I did not suggest that there would be any need to consider ignoring court orders. At the point of that meeting, there were no court orders to discuss.
Well, did you suggest telling the courts, fuck you, in any manner?
I don't recall.
You just don't remember that. Well, let me ask you this. It also says in the complaint, Bouvet indicated and stressed to all in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what. These are the planes that a judge was ordering not be used to render people to a maximum security prison outside the country. Did you say during that meeting, did you stress to all in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what?
Senator, your characterization is not accurate.
It's not my characterization. It's the characterization of a decorated prosecutor who was in that meeting. Are you saying that he's lying?
As I said at the beginning of the hearing.
No, I'm not interested in what you said at the beginning of the hearing. I'm interested in whether you stressed to people in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what. Did you say that?
I certainly conveyed the importance of the upcoming operation.
Well, don't paraphrase here. Did you tell people in attendance the planes needed to take off no matter what?
I don't recall the specific words that I used.
Wouldn't you recall saying that if you had instructed that the planes needed to take off no matter what, including whether the court ordered otherwise? You wouldn't remember that?
This is a mischaracterization, Senator. There were no court orders at this point.
Well, there was a court order, wasn't there?
No,
wasn't there a court order by Judge Boasberg, if not in this specific case, then in related cases, that people not be sent out of the country until the court could rule? Wasn't there a court order?
Not at the time of that meeting, Senator.
Did you participate in the decision not to disseminate that oral court order prior to the written court order to other agencies so those planes would not take off, so those planes would turn around? Were you involved in the decision to withhold that court order from the responsible agencies?
I think it's clear that I participated in this.
Yes or no?
I participated in this matter, and I'm not going to get into the contents of legal advice. I did, over the course of time, as many lawyers have.
No, I'm not interested in over the course of time. I'm interested in whether you participated in the willful violation of court orders as alleged in this complaint. Let me ask you this, Mr. Bouvet, if there are notes of that meeting, will you provide them to this committee?
I defer to the committee and to the executive branch on the procedure.
And if the committee requests them, will you provide those notes to the committee?
I defer to the executive branch on the handling of that request.
And let me ask you about notes from another meeting which you're contesting here, and that is the meeting over the decision to dismiss the case in New York, the corruption case against the mayor of New York. According to Ms. Sassoon, the U.S. attorney at the time, during the meeting with Adams' attorneys, where she described Adams' attorneys repeatedly urging what amounted to a quid pro quo, that you admonished one of the lawyers in the room to stop taking notes. Is that true?
I don't believe I instructed that attorney to stop taking notes. I did remark on the fact that he was taking extensive notes, yes.
And why did it concern you that he was taking notes of that meeting?
Because at that point in the meeting, we were discussing who was responsible for media leaks, and I was making the point that only the prosecutors had created an extensive record that could support detailed leaks.
And you were concerned, were you, that information about this potential quid pro quo might become public? Was that the concern?
I've explained that there was no quid pro quo.
Will you provide the notes of that meeting, which you, according to the U.S. attorney, instructed be collected at the end of the meeting?
I think a member of my staff may have given that instruction outside my presence, and I defer to the committee and the executive branch on records requests and how those should be handled.
Well, I would request that we seek these records, which go to the truthfulness or lack of truthfulness of this witness. There's a reason why, if I may, my colleagues have gone over at least as much as this. There must be a reason why prosecutors quit rather than following orders from you they considered unethical. There must be a reason why prosecutors complained about you in your own office, why defense attorneys complained about you in your own office, why the judge in the case involving the dismissal of the charges in New York said everything here smacks of a bargain. You testified earlier that the objective evidence overwhelmingly made it clear that it was not a bargain. That there must be a reason why everyone disagrees with you, Mr. Bouvet, and people feel it necessary to give up a job they love at the Department of Justice and quit because they won't go along with what they consider unethical and immoral orders from you. There must be a reason why that is so true of so many, and this court needs to get to the bottom of it. I yield back.
Well, as a former judge, I like being referred to as the court. But as the chair, I will turn it over to Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Madam.
A whistleblower, Mr. Ruane, a career prosecutor, submitted a detailed complaint that formed the basis of this hearing. According to his account, Mr. Bouvet made a shocking suggestion during an internal DOJ meeting that the Department of Justice consider telling courts, quote, FKU, and ignore any court orders. Now, Bouvet, under oath, denies that he made any such suggestion. He repeatedly claims he has no recollection of saying those words or encouraging anyone to defy the courts. That denial was met with sharp skepticism from senators who clearly weren't buying the idea that such an inflammatory comment could simply slip one's memory. Here's my take. If true, such a statement would represent profound breach of legal ethics and judicial respect. But also, as an analyst, I have to recognize that I don't recall is a standard legal response in high-stakes hearings. It avoids perjury, but it also doesn't clear the air. Another focal point of this hearing was a controversial operation involving deportation flights allegedly conducted in defiance of an oral court order. The whistleblower claims Bouvet insisted that the planes must take off no matter what. Again, Bouvet denies using those specific words, saying he conveyed the importance of the operation, but not an outright defiance of the law. Here's where it gets tricky. At the time of the meeting, Bouvet insists there was no written court order. Senators, however, argue that an oral order from Judge Boasberg was in place, and that DOJ officials failed to properly disseminate that order to the agencies responsible for executing the deportation. That's a key distinction, oral versus written. But in legal and operational terms, oral court orders still count, especially in emergency settings. If DOJ officials delayed or concealed that order, that's not just a bureaucratic error, it's a serious legal problem. Then came a second controversy. The hearing turned to a separate case in New York involving corruption charges against the mayor. During meetings between DOJ prosecutors and the mayor's attorneys, it's alleged that there were repeated suggestions of a quid pro quo. Even more concerning, U.S. Attorney Ms. Sassoon claims that during this meeting, Mr. Bouvet admonished a fellow attorney for taking too many notes. Bouvet denies telling anyone to stop writing, but admits commenting on the note-taking. That may seem minor, but in legal proceedings, contemporaneous notes can be powerful evidence. If a senior DOJ official tried to suppress or discourage note-taking in the middle of sensitive discussions involving a powerful political figure, it raises a red flag. Several senators point out something else that can't be ignored, a pattern of resignations. Career prosecutors, people with no political agenda, reportedly quit their jobs rather than follow orders they believe were unethical or immoral. The concern is that Bouvet's conduct tone or instructions led legal professionals to draw a line in the sand. When independent, apolitical prosecutors resign en masse, it's not noise of the signal. That doesn't automatically mean Bouvet did something illegal, but it strongly suggests that at the very least his leadership style or decisions caused serious discomfort inside DOJ ranks. So what's at stake here? If any part of the whistleblower's complaint is substantiated, whether it's the alleged courtroom defiance, the suppression of court orders, or the handling of the mayor's case, it's not just a personnel issue. It strikes at the foundation of rule of law. The Department of Justice must be impartial. It must be responsive to court orders, and it must operate in ways that inspire public trust. This hearing, and the many evasions from Mr. Bouvet I don't recall, I defer to the executive branch only deepen the impression that something may be off, even if no smoking gun has yet emerged. To be clear, Bouvet deserves due process. These are allegations, not convictions. But the Senate is right to ask hard questions, and the public is right to demand transparency. If there are meeting notes, they should be produced. If prosecutors resign in protest, their reasons should be examined. And if any DOJ official suggested ignoring a court order or allowing deportation planes to fly in violation of judicial intervention, it must be investigated thoroughly. Because at the end of the day, we can't afford a system where political expediency overrides legal accountability. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to subscribe, and turn on notifications. Drop a comment. Do you think DOJ officials are being honest in these hearings? Or is this more about political theater than genuine accountability? Either way, I'll keep covering these stories clearly, calmly, and independently. Thanks for watching. See you next time.